I mean, it seems to me your story is more interesting than mine, so I don't know. I just want to say,
yeah.
in Swiss passport, we have a registration where our names have been where they're coming from. So if something happens, marriage or death, that Gemeinde, that village will be informed. And my village is Trin. So when you pass Flims, there comes Trin before comes Trun. So we are essentially also from Bündner Oberland. But two things, I have never lived there, nor do I speak, unfortunately. I wish I could. Rätoromanisch.
Yeah, I think it's getting a little bit lost. No, it's also like the Ladinish in South Tyrol.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I really enjoyed, no, because when his mother and father, my grandparents, were like speaking between themselves, they were always in Rätoromanisch, no, and I would ask, what does this mean? And this and this, no. Yeah, so some words, no, now, but yeah, and it has also like a similarity with Latin, of course, and as I speak French, Spanish, Italian, some Portuguese, so it's very similar, no, or some words are similar, no, so it helps.
Yeah, right. Good.
Yeah, but let's change the topic, Peter. Well, you have lived many years now in Thailand, and you have quite an experience in the hospitality industry. So the microphone is yours. Maybe you can give us a little bit information or about your background. You were telling us already that you came from Davos, beautiful village in the Swiss Alps, and then you moved to Lucerne to the famous hotel management school. Maybe you could tell us also why you fell in love with the hospitality industry, with hotels, because this sounds a little bit like the Caesar Ritz story. He also fell in love with the hotel business, etc. No? And yeah, a little bit about your personal, your professional development, because you have quite a long, interesting journey, no?
Well, yeah, I was born in Davos in 1955. It's a long time ago. I grew up there, went to school there. I did the Mittelschule, the Schweizerische Alpine Mittelschule there. And afterwards, the idea was that I go into a bank. That was my father's idea. It is. I didn't know what to do. I had no idea what I would do with myself. So I said, go in a bank. And later I could take over his office. He was kind of a bookkeeper, Treuhandbureau. He did numbers for other companies. So I did. And once I ended up in the bank, that was 1974, I realized again, I didn't know what to do, but this is not what I want to do. I hated the bank because the bank was kind of stifling to me. I figured out I'm more of an outgoing person. So after some serious convincing together with my father, he even helped me to get my first internship in a hotel, which was in the same road, the main road in Davos. You know, for me, understandably, Davos is the center of gravity. It was. We grew up there, even though we say on the left side we have the mountains, on the right side we have the mountains, so our horizon is somehow a little bit restricted. And I figured that the hotel industry is better for people business. I was closer to the customers. There was no big window in between, you know, the customer and the employee. And I liked it. So I worked seasonal jobs, mainly in Davos. I did a stint in Montreux at the Edenolac and trying to get the bearings. At the same time, I enrolled myself into the Swiss hotel school in Lucerne, as you mentioned. That wasn't immediately possible. Even in those days, there was already a waiting list. So I continued to work seasonal jobs. The hotels, I did quite a few hotels in Davos, the Hotel Euro, the Post Hotel, the Sunstar hotels, and the Steigenberger Hotel Belvedere. This kind of as I progressed. But I was eventually then able to do the hotel school. So I did what I could skip is the mandatory practice. Currently, we have 3 interns here from Switzerland, because everybody, as part of the diploma, they have to do their internship. 2 from Lucerne and 1 from PASUC, the campus of the École Hotelier Lausanne. So we have 3 guys here that do their training. I kind of like them to come here, and they like to come to us. So I could skip that. I graduated there in 78. And at that time I felt, since I work in a hotel, it would be nice to see the world a little bit. So I tried to apply in a lot of hotels based on the hotel directory, which was such a book, a Bible in those days. But nobody even answered. Then I saw an advertisement in the Hotel Review. I think the paper still exists.
Yeah.
That the Peninsula Hotel Hong Kong looks for a front office manager. I applied with no hopes, got an interview because Peninsula was under Swiss management, and they traveled to Switzerland every now and then. So I got an interview in Zug because the number 2 guy of the group was from Zug. That was in October, and I got the job as of March the next year, which was in 1976. I got the job, or 78, I believe. It was 78. Yes, I'm not quite sure anymore right now. Point is, I got the job.
So these were applications still with post, of course, in 76, and it took quite a long time to wait, no, for the response, or?
Yeah, I mean, the whole process took 2 months.
Wow.
I applied in August. We met in October, and they hired me for next. I mean, can you imagine? So by now we almost 2/3 of a year, the whole process. Nowadays, that's impossible, right? But this was the slow.
How did they do with the Kündigungsfrist? How do you say it? There were maybe 6 months without a FEOM, or?
Well, they had a plan for the guy who was there to become GM in one of the smaller hotels. Yeah. And the truth is, they hired somebody in between. I should clarify, the position was actually assistant front office manager. Because in the meantime, then they hired somebody. By the time I had the interview, I said, well, I also come as an assistant. I was already front office manager at the Steigenberger. Said, well, to go international, I have to sacrifice something, right? But by the time I showed up, something happened with that other person, and they immediately put me into my position, front office manager. What a risky move. I haven't worked in Asia for a minute. My English was even worse than it is now. Much worse, right? So being a Swiss. But I jumped into the cold water. I didn't held out any hope that I would last long, like the previous guy who apparently didn't make it. I thought, this is not gonna work. This is just a step too many. But I got the confidence of the leadership. I managed myself reasonably well, and I stayed. I even had a deal in Davos back that in winter, when the next winter comes, I parked my car. I can have my car again. I had an option for the rental of my apartment. I said everything that I could be back for the winter season, the following winter season, because the only thing I want to say, I wanted to try, so I do not spend the rest of my life thinking I should have tried. Okay, I try, it didn't work out, I go back to my mountains. And then in September of that year, I already had to make a decision, do I go back or not? And I made a decision not to go back, and I have never gone back since. Wow. Now we are 39 years down the road.
That's quite a time.
Yeah. So once in Asia, there are a couple of things in our profession. The first job is not really the easiest one to get. It's often internship, as I mentioned. Then the first geographical change. Nowadays, we would not hire an executive who hasn't worked in Asia yet or for the company yet. Ideally, they have worked for both company and Asia. Then we have a certain assurance that this is going to work, because running hotels has become so complicated in terms of administration and reports and procedures and policies, much more than in those days. So to change continents. So I got the confidence of this Swiss group there, and I managed. Today that would be impossible. Nobody would hire a front office manager into the peninsula, Hong Kong anymore, who hasn't even been in Asia, right? So I was lucky. And then I stayed on with the Peninsula Group. I became, I did the traditional upbringing. I became as a rooms division manager, I became a resident manager. And then comes the next hurdle, GM, because I said it somewhere else too. No owner gives his hotel to a GM who hasn't been GM for a minute in his life. That's a risk. So who would do that? So it needs, again, a connection. And what I can say is, throughout my career, particularly in Asia, there was always a Swiss connection around. I talked about the peninsula leadership. Even my resident manager position, that was at the New World Hong Kong at that time, after the peninsula, now the Rosewood Hong Kong. I was a Swiss. And then I moved to Bangkok. I arrived in Bangkok in 1988. And now I know I left Switzerland in 1984 because I was 4 years in Hong Kong. So that's the right number. And in 1988, the Swiss general manager of the Shangri-La Bangkok gave me, or asked me, or kind of, gave me the position as a resident manager. And that was a substantial move. It was a new hotel, 780 rooms. Really a good career step. And I came for 2.5 years to Thailand in 88. And again, I never left Thailand. Like I never went back to Switzerland. Now I never left Thailand. And I did one job after the other. So mentorship and connectivity already in those days have been a big deal. I don't think we realized it that way. We almost took it for granted somehow. But nowadays, if I think back, the relationships, particularly in Thailand, are a big deal. People seek it, people want it, people deserve it. But back then, it was just somehow, yeah, you're lucky. All right, so fine, we were lucky. Point is, we always had to prove ourselves afterwards. If we steal, cheat, or lie, or are otherwise useless, then we wouldn't succeed anyway. But this mentorship, and in some days they used to call it Swiss mafia. We would always deny that, but there is something about the connection, right? And now being on the side I am, as I just told you, we have Swiss interns here, but we do not restrict only to Swiss. We take international, we have Dutch, we have French. Then we have from Asia, we have from Indonesia, we have from Malaysia, but there are different levels in terms of the schooling they go through. But essentially, it's a good thing to let them have an experience, because it is not easy anymore to find people. It is also in Asia now harder to find people. We still find people. It takes longer, and they are often not as trained as we want them to be for the position. So what happens, we become a school, and we often call our hotel here the JW University, because we train, and train, and we even give them certificates, JW University, kind of on a light-hearted way, because Thais, they do want to learn. They do want to become better people, but they don't necessarily have the opportunity from their homes, from the schooling system in the country, especially outside Bangkok. So we kind of complete their learning process. And that's a wonderful thing to do. It's also a challenge because, the customer doesn't care, is this a trainee or is this a manager? The customer wants to have the service. So it's a bit a balancing act. but I think we have found a good way to balance exactly that. Because what also happens, the tolerance level of customers, they all have thin skins. The skins are not as thick as it used to be. And somebody can take a hit or a kind of a deal with adversity. The tolerance level has shrunk a lot since COVID. I cannot really put my head around it, but it's very clear the customer gets upset easier, they complain quicker, they go into the room, and before anybody knows in the hotel, we read from ourselves about ourselves on social media.
Yeah.
Because it goes into
Goes so fast.
TripAdvisor or it goes into the guest voice, which is internal to Marriott. So to complain online has become the norm, so to speak, and it's much easier than to face and say, I want to talk to the general manager. And we even talk face to face like we do. So also this is now very fast paced. And what we try to do as part of the training, solve the problem before the guest checks out. Because if the guest checks out with the problem, we can be sure there's another round of emails or social media entries hitting us. So to keep the customer satisfied has become more challenging. Now, I have to say there's also a generational, I don't want to say issue, but a generational aspect to all this. The young generation, how should I say that? They want to move quickly. They want to progress quickly. They don't necessarily want to go too deep. Like the times we talk now since I was born have become faster. Their thinking and their expectations are also faster and higher. So it is not easy for them to work in our industry where we have shift duties, weekend duties, public holiday duties, and 24 hours a day open shop. I truly believe that as an industry, we have to change the way we remunerate our staff. We cannot just give them a flat salary anymore. And in our case, in Thailand, we give them service charge, which is good. It's higher than quite higher than the minimal minimal salary. We need to pay surpluses for morning shift, evening shift, weekend duties, like, for example, they do that in Australia. And I've learned now one or two hotels in Switzerland, they've already started to pay more, like 30% more for Sunday duty. Because, it's expected that we are open, but other services are either not available on Sunday or ask for more money on Sunday. So should we. That's point one. And point two, in 1975, when I was on the Credit Suisse, that was my bank, Credit Suisse, doesn't exist anymore since a couple of months. We had floating working hours. We could come and go when we wanted within a window, as long as we rack up a certain amount of hours a week. That was 75. In the hotel industry, still today, we are not having it. On a small scale, we're piloting this now at the JW Marriott Bangkok. Sales, the admin department, accounting, executive office, and we try now in operational departments to have either floating hours or 4 days a week and 3 days off, while still achieving the same number of hours, which means it needs kind of good management so we can ensure that we still have enough people to deal with the prevailing occupancy levels. I don't say we are industry breaking, but what I do want to say is that we try it, because as I say, I believe salary, the way we pay and the way we make them work or engage in terms of hours, both have to change Otherwise, we will never get out of this current situation where we run out of the people. In addition, those people we hire, 1 of 4 resigns during probation. So then we lose again because they say, well, this is too hard. This is not for me. So you see, the industry by and large is still kind of in the old standards. We could say previous century because that comes from there, but certainly pre-COVID. And now with so many paradigms shifting after COVID, to me, this is the most important recognition. And as long as that's still active, I will advocate that, and we will see where it's getting us.
Wow, very interesting to see also the challenges, because normally we think, at least only in Austria or in Europe, there's the lack of staff, of professional staff in the industry, but apparently also in Asia and also in Thailand. I didn't know that. What would you say were like important leadership lessons? Because you said in your first GM position, for example, to deal with people, to lead a team, especially if you were a foreigner in Asia. What would you say have you learned, observed, would be like recommendable to someone else?
2 things. Whenever we go abroad, and you've traveled even more than I did, you know every country has a different culture. So every foreigner coming into my building to work, I sit down with them. I even give them some literature. Culture.
Yeah.
Culture. I mean, this is not hardcore literature. It's kind of a lighthearted literature. In this case, the Thai culture. We can only be successful if we respect the culture of the country and make that work together with the culture of the company. And, you know, I started to give some guest lecture appearances. I was at the Swiss Hotel. I was in Lucerne at my school. I was in Pasuk. I was in Singapore. Next week, I will be 1 week at the Hong Kong Polytechnic University as an executive in session. So I give some guest lecture, but I also listen, interact with the students. The point is, since COVID, I realized I want to give something back. I want to interact. There is some interest to like you, me now talk. And one of the, and here comes the point. I'm working on a presentation and I have it essentially ready. How does country culture and company culture go hand in hand? How does that work? And in this case, Marriott Thailand, right? Because again, if we don't do one of them, clearly we need to do the company culture as long as it says Marriott on our roof. But the country culture is often neglected. So respect and accept as much as possible the local culture. Live it to the extent possible as a foreigner. You know, I have been in more temples praying with Buddhist monks than I have ever been in churches in Europe. That's what we do, because that shows that displays the respect and shows the understanding we have of their culture. And when that happens, when that has been established, the people take us more serious. They think we are one of them. You know, leadership is always accepted. Hierarchy, titles in Asia, they're often respected. There's no problem. In Japan, a title is huge. Here, a title goes a long way. Coupled with seniority, which means a certain age in life, they look up to those people. You know, I'm here 22 years in this building. That's like a dinosaur. They don't exist anymore. But there is no rule without an exception, right? But the point is, a lot of staff, they call me Papa, because
Wow.
they feel like that's an affectionate way to say it, right? And then comes the second point, the generational gap, the young generation. In the young generation, nobody calls me Papa. They call me Kung Peter, like I call you by first name. in Europe, we have to be called Herr Caprez, Herr, we call each other Herr, or when you know each other a little bit by first name. So by calling me Peter, they're calling me right away by first name. That's the new generation. They don't have this silo thinking anymore like we used to have. The older generation, they call me Caprez, which is a little more respectful, or Papa, which is then affectional. So the generations, listen to that. I'm a baby boomer, right? 1955. By the time I was 16 and I went into my professional life, all I knew is the thinking of the silent generation. My parents went through the war. All my teachers went through the war. So the what do you call it? The development we got from them was all silent thinking. Now we went into the jobs. We dealt with our own baby boomer friends, and what happens afterwards? There comes Generation X, Y, Z, millennials, and every generation is different. And I didn't realize that until recently in one university. Somebody asked me, how did I change my leadership to suit the generation of the day, so to speak, the generation of the time? Because every 10 years, there is a different lot coming up. And the short answer is, very interesting question. I do not have a short answer, but I study it now. In our days, as baby boomers, what we couldn't do is no. We couldn't say no to our fathers, and we could never ask questions. These were orders. This was the silent generation thing. I have a daughter, 31. Anybody who has a kid now, the kid tells us what to do. So we listen twice. We listen to our fathers and we listen to our kids. Point is, from silent to today, there was a journey. And this generational journey, I tried to kind of put it into some decent presentation, but it's very challenging because I need to remember certain events. It's about storytelling. These students want to, like I'm telling you now, stories. That's what they want to hear. They don't want to have an abstract. They know what's different between the generation. So that's what I'm kind of working at. And I hope that next week in Hong Kong, meeting a couple of professors, I can make some inroads on that.
What would you say are like your top hacks or secrets in getting this energy to run this hotel for 22 years? You have other responsibilities also, and especially, I think today's generation, I don't want to generalize, but you mentioned it a little bit. Many people, younger people, they want to like to have their work-life balance, focus maybe more on life than work. So they don't want to work too many hours. They don't want to work weekends, etc. No, and take up so much responsibility that you have, and you have done it now for so many years in a foreign language, in a foreign country, in a foreign culture, etc. So what would you say are like important points that make you like still continue, no? Because some people would say, I retire at 60 or at 61, and from my counting, you are like 68. So you're still continuing, you still have the passion. Why is that?
Well, I'm a self-motivated, point one. Point two is one thing we learn here, particularly in Asia and Thailand. We foreigners, we are not often the most patient people in the world. So I realized that patience is a very important trait for longevity. If we explode 2-3 times a day about small little issues, 2 years later we are a wreck, and we either change jobs or we do something else. So the patience to deal with the issues as they arrive, because naturally every job comes with a challenge, and instead of going somewhere else to find new challenge, I stay here and continue to resolve the challenges coming my way with the team. That's really the secret. So it needs some motivation. I'm always on stage as the GM. Everybody looks at me. Sometimes they say, oh, he walks around and doesn't greet us anymore. Just because I went to get a tea, I was thinking about something and two people say hello to me and I didn't notice it. So that's the stage presence we have. So I'm aware of this. And never lose our cool. You know, ties, there's a saying, they have memories like an elephant, because an elephant never forgets. The elephant will always remember that person who did something good to the elephant. But the ties are the same, but they also remember if somebody made them lose face in front. I cannot even in my executive committee, this morning we had our executive committee meeting, I cannot single out somebody and lecture them or give them a shampoo, so to speak. They're losing face and they will never forgive a foreigner for that. Because why we are here? We are here because we know a thing or two better or different than they do. We have some leadership qualities embedded in our DNA by where we come from and by our schooling, which is by and large good wherever we do it. So the last thing, a person like this who gets a certain respect by CV and by background and by nationality, then hammer it away by losing control. And I have to say, it's getting easier when getting older. But my first GM's job was at 35. That was the one here at the Don Mueang Airport at the old Amari Hotel, Amari Airport Hotel. There I really struggled because I still have more the foreign thinking and the foreign, and I'm Swiss, timing, you know, we Swiss, we are born with a watch, kind of. And if somebody's 10 minutes late, we freak out. Here, if somebody comes 20 minutes late, that's still in time. So to counter these balances, these expectations, which are culturally driven, religiously driven, and naturally leadership driven, there's no secret sauce. Either it sinks in at one point of time or not. There is no book I can take and just read everything down and next week I know it. It's a matter of experience it and adopt and adopt and adopt. The one thing I can add to the answer to your question, always realize there is room for improvement, there is room for adaptability. Never come to the office and say, I've achieved everything I wanted.
It's like the Swiss. You was speaking about the Swiss watch, the timing,
yeah. So we're born with the Swiss watch. That means timing is important, but that's where we have to compromise. You know, to be successful is equal to the ability of being able to compromise. Now, there is a level where we should not compromise anymore. We are here to create efficiency, to create discipline. The owners hire the foreigners because they know that we get those things done. They expect the whole team to be done, but it cannot be done the Swiss way or the French way or any other way. It has to be done the Thai way. So we instill a certain culture of ours into the team, into the country, so to speak, but only to some extent. At the end, as long as they feel they learn something and it's their idea. I'm like a football coach. I'm not playing in the field, but I direct them. And when the team wins, the team celebrates. And when the team loses, we talk together. I never take the limelight. I do not stand in front of the pictures. So that creates the trust which is needed, because I tell you, without trust anywhere, you were born in Mexico, you know every country. Without trust, we are really lost, and we are only as good as the weakest link in our chain. So naturally, that also means, like only in the executive committee, 8 people, I have different levels of understanding, leadership, experience. I apply different strokes for different folks. I have a lot of one-on-ones. I do not essentially operate a hotel anymore. My stakeholders are the owners, because they give us the building to manage. Marriott, because they employed me to do so. And then the associates and the customers, right? But the ones keeping me most busy are the first two, owners and Marriott. And then as a third, so the customer is not my first priority. That's different for other jobs. But still in answer to your question, to survive such a long time, those components play a role. It's integrity, it's patience, accept the culture, accept the status quo, and then find a slow way, or as fast as possible, I should say, fast as possible, that can be different, to do two things: increase output, increase numbers, decrease costs, whatever it may be, and then keeping consistent. In Asia, consistency is not exactly in the DNA of many people. That's not like us. That's why I say we are born with a watch. Here it's not the case. So that's what we try to achieve, but not me alone. It's always a team effort, Alejandro.
How you mentioned create discipline, for example. How do you do that? And what do you think if you see like somebody that has potential, where you see someone, look, this one he's from here, or doesn't matter from where, but he wants to take up more responsibility. He's creating excellence, etc. What do you think someone like this would have to bring? And how would you then, like you mentioned it also, like push him or mentor him, or how do you recognize this? No, these two questions.
Well, discipline is not in terms of military. Discipline is just a general discipline that when the work starts at 8, they need to be on the job at 8. They cannot walk into the hotel at 8, go for breakfast, get a shower, and then show up at 8:40. So this kind of discipline, this is soft. This is software. This is not hardcore military drill. Generally, achieving that, we have 580 people here. Currently, we used to have 720 before COVID, which sounds like a lot. It was a lot, but now we're on higher occupancy levels at low. So we also created some efficiency. But when so many people, we have 580 people, and when the hotel is full, another 800 to 1,000 guests. This is like a rice cooker, everything's shaking in the building. So we need a certain discipline. That's what I mean with discipline. And the second question, people normally stick out when they have talent, when they want to become more. They go beyond the normal job responsibility. They get good guest comments, their demeanor. It's not even the level of English they talk, because English is not a language they learn in school here. It's just the desire. And I tell you again, the Thais have a great desire to learn and to become better people. We do that. Afterwards, the consistency issue comes in, but we do that too. So they stick out, and they're being recommended either by the supervisor, by the manager, by the leadership team. So there's a system, and we have that in place. We have high potential, a list. And the list has about 20 people. And we renew that, and we interview these people. And then, the associates on the list, and we see what do they want to be, what's the time frame. So that works. And Marriott has now 17 hotels in Bangkok. So the JW University has delivered a lot of talent to those newly opened hotels, since ever this hotel opened in 1997.
Is there still this Swiss connection or the Swiss mafia that you mentioned? And if yes or no, independently, what were like your personal leadership lessons that you have received during during building up your career, for example, when you became with 35 GM? What were like tough lessons that you said, yes, he gave me this advice, or with this I could improve that, etc. No? And a second question would be, how is nowadays your average day? You wake up, you have any rituals or anything in particular that what you want to mention?
Yeah. But the Swiss mafia per se doesn't exist anymore because all my previous mentors are retired, or some of them even died. The mentorship of them was typical Swiss. You know, when a Swiss mentors another Swiss, then we do it the Swiss way. So there I got a lot of more of what I already had. I only learned the cultural piece actually here on this job, which I'm now doing 22 years, because I actually felt that some companies, without realizing it to a point where I would make it a discussion topic, that the culture is neglected. I had one job, which I also occupied 4 years with multiple hotel responsibilities. It was the toughest job I ever had. I ended up 3 times in the hospital with a stomach ulcer because it was just
Wow.
relentless. And you know, when the body gets overwhelmed, either you get headaches or you get stomach ulcers. The point what I tried to make here is I learned a lot. I learned probably more than any other job. But you know what? How not to do it, how not to treat people, how not to push and squeeze the lemon when it's already dry since a week. So that you know, you can take, the good thing is we can choose from our mentors what we want to keep with us. The good, I say now, the bad and the ugly, kind of
Absolutely right.
paraphrasing, right? Right? And that's what I did. The interesting part about this is it's not when I leave a job to a new job, I immediately realize what was good about the previous job. It takes a couple of years, and then I realize, why do I still keep thinking about him in whatever way, good or bad? But I keep thinking about him, and I keep thinking about that guy. And then I realize what the mentorship, those individual mentorships meant to me. So it's a recognition which takes a while, which has to kind of like, you know, digest in the brain.
You
So
mentioned,
that's that.
yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
you mentioned the Swiss way in this because your mentor was Swiss, etc. How would be the Swiss way?
Rigid.
Yeah,
You know, there was the time computers came up. It was about mid-90s. Internet came up, computers started to make inroads.
yeah.
I thought I gonna buy myself a computer, take computer lessons. My boss shows up, comes in my office, says, this computer has to disappear immediately and forever. I want my GMs to be in the lobby at 6, at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and not in the office playing with the computer. So I took the computer to my room because at that time I lived in the hotel. That was part of the job. And I used it at night. And during the day, I was hiding it in a locked closet because I was afraid that the maid would report that the computer is not there. So this is old school. A certain degree of intimidation, straightforward. I can live with that. I can totally live with black and white. I'm okay. I'm okay with an organized environment. But the do's and don'ts were still hardcore walls.
Mhm.
Now, you know, we shift them a little bit depending on the situation. We are flexible. That was hardcore. It was old school stuff.
Wow. Anything else, Peter or Kun Peter or Kun Caprez, that you would
No,
like, or
Peter is
Papa,
good.
that you would like to
Yeah.
mention? For example, when the GM also said, "Ah, you should be in the lobby talking with the customers, etc." Yeah, anything else you would like to? Because I think there is still so much you could tell us, and also I think you should write it down. all your stories, all your lessons, everything you have learned, and that you can give also.
Yeah, somebody, I met somebody, 3 people already suggested I should start writing a book with somebody. I say, well, right now I'm still working. Point 1. Point 2, next plan is to extend my involvements with the hotel schools and the universities. And if then there is still room and desire. You know, it sounds often more interesting than it is. What I can say, running a hotel is colorful by demography, by guest segment, changing guest segments. You know, when I came, we only had Europeans and Americans. We could not survive anymore on Europeans and Americans. Today, we still have a lot of Americans, corporations, because we are American hotel. But the second highest guest segment, Middle East, right? And then here in Thailand, what's needed is either Middle East, India, or Russia. Now, Russia kind of fell away a bit, but one of these segments a hotel needs to have as a base. And then there come the other Asian markets, Japan, Korea, which are traditionally big, and China. I forgot China. And China is also still not where it should be. It's not where it used to be. So the point is, these guest segments bring also, again, their own culture into our hotel, have their own set of expectations, and the understandings and misunderstandings and miscommunications and surprises which these interactions create, well, that's colorful. That's colorful. We learned a lot about the Middle Eastern culture, the behavior, not only food. We have now Arab chef all the time. So we adjust, and that's colorful. That's much more colorful than working in a bank.
Definitely.
It's my
That's why,
origin as
yeah, that's why you probably changed, no? And I hope Credit Suisse that it doesn't exist. It's not because of you in Davos and
no. But when I say now in a hotel school, yeah, I have kind of a CV by numbers, and the highest number first, and the lowest number at the bottom. The lowest number is 9 months. My time at Credit Suisse. And then some students, especially in Singapore, they're kind of informed what's going on. Credit Suisse, that one, say, yeah, that one.
Well, Peter, what are your plans now with these universities that you're mentioning? So you will be lecturing. You're looking also for this other relationship, or what will we?
Yeah, there are a lot of people who have a lot of experience, like I do, and there are a lot of people who probably talk better than I do. So again, it's it's a relationship building thing. When COVID kind of started to go away, I started to establish relationships through people I knew, and I go there wherever I go pro bono. I'm still having a full-time job. I clarified that with Marriott. Say, look, I want to extend myself, go to universities, have some guest speaker engagements, and Marriott was happy. Said, well, better somebody from Marriott goes there than from Hilton. So that was okay. I settled that with the owners. So next week I take a week's vacation. But what happens, I go to Hong Kong and I live on campus. They have a hotel there. I give a guest lecture on corporate social responsibility and how Marriott does it. That's my theme, the one I established. And then I sit into lectures of different university professors on different subjects, revenue management, marketing. One professor is from Houston University there as a guest professor. And we interact. When the class is over and I'm sitting in the classroom, there will be Q&A, which involves me. The interesting part is academia meets operation, right? And I just had a fireside talk with another group from the same university, the Hong Kong Polytechnic University, 10 days ago. They were on a field trip in Bangkok, and I met them at another hotel. And these were already people working like yourself and wanted to do an additional master's in tourism. They were mostly tourism and less so hotels. So they were anywhere up to 44 years old. It was almost a bit intimidating because these people already knew what operation means. But still, the dialogue is really interesting. It's invigorating. Naturally, not always 100% of the people are interested, but there is a vibe. And I want to build up on that. So when I stop here one day to run hotels full time, like 7 days a week, 5 days, then I will have this kind of setup, keeping me 30 to 40% busy in my retirement. You know, we cannot work the whole life with our brain and our body, and just because some number is up, go home and do nothing. I don't have a concept for that.
Wow, that's inspiring, and it's a nice closing. And I see you have still so much energy, although you self-define yourself like a dinosaur at Marriott. Peter, Peter, thank you very much. And I hope you can also extend your experience, your lectureship to Vienna. Maybe the next time you come to Davos or even Austria or Vienna, tell us, and yeah, we will invite you for a nice cup of coffee and maybe a Sacher cake, like typical Viennese. And really a pleasure to talk to you. And I think maybe we could do even like a second part or meet again, because I think well, I would have still so many questions, no, but of course also time is always an important element, no? So vielen Dank
Well,
noch.
I appreciate that, Alejandro. I would be thrilled and keen to continue to be in touch. I know there's such a thing like listener tolerance. So you know best how to edit the good things and bad things out. But you know, on a quarterly basis or whatever you think, that's one thing. And if I do come to Europe way, I would let you know. I will be in Europe next month, but pure holidays to visit my mom. She's still alive in Davos, and so that's a pure leisure trip. But I'm working already with Lucerne and Pasuk again for next spring. And you know, I naturally tried to combine, since I pay everything myself at this point, I want to combine a couple of engagements with one flight.
Yeah, so we have to speak about that to see if, yeah, otherwise you just tell me in advance and I come to Lucerne or Pasuk, and would be
Yeah, somewhere in
delighted to listen
Switzerland,
to
right,
your
right.
conference also.
Yeah, yeah. That would be nice. I mean, you said your dad went to Lucerne, right?
Exactly, yeah. I will have to ask him
Which year?
which year, yeah, because he
Yeah.
was born in 1960. Now I switch off the records.
Okay.